Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Chris Warholic,
And I'm Malia Warholic.
and this is the Birth of Zen Jitsu. First, a little bit about us. I was born in small town USA, and I was raised by a single mom, who I must say is pretty amazing. Hi, Mom, just in case you're watching. So, early on, I developed a wanderlust, and I've since traveled the world. I'm also a black belt in judo. I competed nationally and internationally. I've had a lot of different jobs. I've farmed, I've trained dolphins, I've bartended, I've been a hospital administrator, and that's just to name a few. Eventually, I went back to school and became a doctor. And as an MD, I've worked in rural Kansas, I've worked in inner city with the underserved, and also in the jails. I currently work as a full-time emergency room physician, and I also have a clinic in Kenya.
He's also a little ADD.
Just a little bit.
As for me, I'm a 7th grader and I love gymnastics.
And thanks to my ADD, Malia, I've had some pretty amazing experiences. And whether these experiences were working with HIV patients in Africa, working in the jails, in the ER, or in my personal life, I've seen a great deal of suffering, which prevails all walks of life. And that's really why I started this project years ago. So about Zen Jitsu, let's see where to begin. All right, let's just imagine that you come to my clinic and I offer you a pill that I just developed in my laboratory.
You don't have a lab?
Well, let's pretend that I do have a lab. Oh yeah, I just developed a magic pill. And fortunately, this magic pill can help you manage and even prevent physical illness such as heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity, chronic pain, and more. Mental illness such as anxiety, panic disorder, depression, OCD, and ADD. And let's not forget addiction to drugs, alcohol, eating, shopping, gambling, or whatever you might be addicted to. And don't worry, if you don't have those problems, this magic pill can also help with emotional stress. You know, that feeling of powerlessness, hopelessness, helplessness, or worthlessness that sometimes we may or may not feel. And we shouldn't forget spiritual empowerment. It can help you with that as well. So like, you ever felt like life has no meaning, or you just feel lonely, empty, or disconnected from it all?
But wait, that's not all this magic pill can do.
This pill can also help you have better relationships, be more productive at work, increase your earning potential, and it can also help you be a better student, artist, and athlete.
Let's not forget, you can even look younger, live longer, and have a happier, more satisfying life.
You couldn't look much younger. And finally, the best news of all, however, there's a lot of scientific evidence to support these claims, and this pill has very few, if any, negative side effects. If this magic pill sounds too good to be true, you're right, it doesn't exist. These benefits don't come from a pill. They do, however, come from something that you already possess. Before I tell you what that something is, let's take a closer look at the overall problem. Now, Malia will now help me with these, the top 10 reasons why we as humanity find ourselves in such a physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and I'll add environmentally diseased condition.
Number 1. Our brains evolved in a manner which makes us easily distracted from the present moment, and that trait is very destructive to us.
So distraction is the most destructive disease state of our times. It's an epidemic. In our distracted state, we fill our bodies with toxic food, and we think our way into our future disease-stricken selves. Distraction is a root cause of physical and mental illness, injustice, economic disparity, political corruption, and the destruction of the environment.
Number 2. Our bodies, brains, and nervous systems are not designed for the stressors and hazards that we face in our modern times.
Over the last century, it's as if we've been transported to a different and highly toxic planet. Here we're exposed to toxins in the air, water, soil, and food. We're chronically stressed, which causes our nervous systems to flood our body with toxic chemicals and hormones.
Number 3. Science and technology have grown faster than our ability to develop protective mechanisms to cope with the hazards that they produce.
So we as humanity are designed to recognize and respond to immediate threats, but we're terrible at foreseeing distant threats. Individually, these threats could be diabetes, hypertension, or smoking-related illness. Societally, these threats could be corruption, disparity, poverty. And globally, these threats are wars, disease pandemics, climate change, and mass starvation. We're simple creatures handed down a toolbox of hammers and shovels when we now have laptops and nuclear weapons.
Number 4. The brain's biochemical reward system prefers immediate feedback and constant stimulation.
As a result, we're easily habituated and addicted. Like lab rats, our every action is controlled by our impulses, our desires, and dependency. We confuse wants with needs, and pleasure, comfort, and satisfaction with joy and happiness. We seek rewards which ultimately destroy us physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and environmentally.
Number 5. We have 2 brains, but we've forgotten how to use one of them.
So when we were really born with right brain, or the right brain being dominant. And we soon developed memory, object permanence, self-permanence, and then our ego was born. And we shifted from a right brain, which is where we experience the world, to the left brain, which is where we're thinking all the time. As a result, we find ourselves constantly in our head in a distracted, sleep-like state as life passes us by and disease sets in.
Number 6. Human beings have a single, unique survival tool that has given us an evolutionary advantage over all other animals, but it's really now poisoning us.
This tool is our ability to simulate events or to predict outcomes. Our simulator, however, overestimates both positive and negative outcomes. We're constantly feeding our simulator new data, which results in chronic worrying, stress, and anxiety. Thus, that voice in your head, the television, your phone, and social media are really slowly killing you.
Number 7. Our brains are lazy, love patterns and shortcuts, and as a result, have developed an autopilot.
This autopilot is constantly seeking a comfort zone. Like a flying airplane that's on autopilot. It's trying to get out of turbulence, and our autopilot, however, controls our thoughts, emotions, and our actions. When we do find ourselves in the now, we feel very uncomfortable, in a state of anxiety, emptiness, loneliness, anger, or even that sense of impending doom.
Number 8. Our brains are like computers and are programmable. However, our programming has major flaws.
So we live our lives today based on our past traumatic experiences and also the instructions given to us by our programmers. We're designed to integrate negative experiences or programs and discard the positive ones, so the negative ones stack on themselves. Our brain, through neuroplasticity, changes based on how we think and experience the world, and our programming dictates our perception and our behavior. We live our lives then by default as opposed to by design, using this flawed programming, which ultimately is destroying us.
Number 9. All human beings want to be free of suffering and experience true joy and happiness. However, we have no idea how to make this happen.
Well put, yeah. So we live our lives in a manner which increases our suffering and separates us from joy and happiness. We also find ourselves disconnected from it all, unable to find purpose and meaning. Our ego takes over and dictates our perception, emotions, and our every action. Our relationships fail and we feel empty, lonely, hopeless, helpless, and spiritually bankrupt.
You can say this one.
Okay. Number 10. The chronic stress associated with the top 9 cause us to go from a relaxed, connected, in the now state to a stressed, distracted, thought-based, isolated state, which is charged with fear and aggression.
I like this part. Let me share it, Dad. Oh, I mean Dr. Hawk.
That's better.
We become people who ignore facts and live in an ego or emotion-centered reality. We call the state a pig-norther.
All right, Malia loves when I make up words, and that's a word that I like a lot. I think it's appropriate. Although my only regret with developing the word pig-norther is that pigs are actually pretty mindful, so it was meant to be no insult to them. In this pig-norther state, we disconnect from the world and isolate ourselves, and then we become either aggressive, viewing the world as something to exploit or master, or we contract in fear and view the world as sort of a hostile and threatening place. We then ignore facts and cater to our emotions and fears. We easily get manipulated by others because of that, because we're distracted. So like smokers ignoring the realities of lung disease and cancer, we fail to connect cause and effect. All right, enough with the bad news. Now that we understand the problem and that there is no magic pill, let us tell you about that little something that you already possess. So each of us, through the practice of mindfulness, has the ability to self-monitor and self-regulate the body and the mind. With a well-exercised mindfulness muscle, you can tap into and utilize the inherent superpowers of the mind and body.
Through mindfulness alone, you can improve your physical and mental health, your emotional and spiritual well-being, and find purpose and meaning in your life. You can envision and create the life of your choosing. Very well stated,
Malia. So if you have loftier goals, such as changing the world, a higher state of mindfulness is really the place to start. As Gandhi so eloquently put it, you must first be the change that you wish to see in the world. We present to you the Tao of Zen Jitsu. Distraction is a disease.
Zen Jitsu is the cure.
The Zen Jitsu dojo is a place for the practice of Zen Jitsu and for the strengthening of the mindfulness muscle. The definition of Zen Jitsu is really techniques in the art of mindfulness. What is Zen Jitsu? It's a multidisciplinary, evidence-based mixed martial art for the mind, designed to strengthen the mindfulness muscle and cure the distracted state. It's a marriage of ancient wisdom with modern medicine and science. Zen Jitsu is a systematic approach with progressive belt levels used to train the body and mind. It's a method of deep self-exploration used to identify and change destructive habits, thoughts, impulses, and behavior. It's not a religion, and it's not a cult, nor is it a replacement for modern medicine. So, in closing, since a distracted and disease-ridden state didn't come about in a day, it will take courage, discipline, discernment, and time to overcome. Since mindfulness can't be made simple or abbreviated for dummies, one should expect that they'll have to practice diligently in order to master the art of Zen Jitsu. We promise, in the end, it'll be worth it.
No matter what stage in life, Zen Jitsu's dokas, or practitioners of Zen Jitsu, can enter the Zen Jitsu dojo and discover their limitless nature and find a more purposeful and meaningful life.
I hope that you'll join us on our path, and that together we discover the limitless nature of our inner Zen Jitsu warrior for the benefit of ourselves, our families, and for all sentient beings. No exceptions. Enter the Zen Jitsu dojo.
Thank you and namaste.